In the past few weeks, I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping. I've been managing 6 up to 6.5 hours per night, independent of when I go to bed or how tired I am. It has really started adding up. My digestion has taken a hit, I have constantly low energy levels, and I'm also unable to properly recover from my workouts. I refuse to take any melatonin pills, which is why I tried to research some ways how can I manage this naturally. This is what inspired today's video. By the end of the video, you're going to know which foods and which diet patterns can impact your sleep quality. Sleep is essential for the maintenance of immune health, memory, and restoring energy. And good sleep quality would mean low number of awakenings throughout the night, shorter time before falling asleep, and short duration of the times when you're waking up throughout the night. Although there is a recommended amount of 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, up to 45% of both Australians and US citizens do not manage to meet those recommendations. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Clementina and I do health, nutrition and fitness content here on YouTube. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in nutrition sciences and a master's degree in food chemistry recently. First, we're going to be going over some dietary patterns that can impact your sleep quality. To begin with, when do you eat can have a large influence on the way you sleep. Things that have been negatively associated with poor sleep quality is firstly eating a large amount of calories at night and eating less than 2 hours before bedtime. All of those have been related to different ways that can negatively influence your sleep. Eating a large amount of calories at night can impact your hormones as well as a woman. I talked about this in my intermittent fasting video, and can also lead to changes in the gut microbiome, which would increase the inflammatory response, which can worsen your sleep quality. On the topic of eating dinner too late at night, that could lead to poor digestive processes and worse sleep quality. What could positively impact your sleep is eating your dinner about 4 hours before you go to sleep. This way your body has enough time to digest the food before you go to bed. Eating 3 consistent meals per day has also been positively related to better sleep quality. The last point might be not realistic for some of you, but being a night owl, here called an evening chronotype, has also been negatively associated with sleep quality. The point here is that it does not align with your natural circadian rhythm. Obesity and sleep have a relationship that goes both ways. After you've had a night of bad sleep, that usually results in higher snacking behavior, a higher caloric intake, you feel hungrier, and you tend to go for more fatty and sugary foods than usual. This, if it is repeated over time, can lead to you putting on weight and the development of obesity. At the same time, individuals that are already obese are more susceptible to obstructive sleep apnea, which is a condition that results in more nighttime awakenings and fragmented sleep. On the topic on what your meal is constructed of, a meal that is higher in carbohydrates as your last meal for the day could be more beneficial compared to a low carbohydrate meal. This is because the carbohydrates help the ratio of different compounds in your blood. We're going to be talking more about tryptophan later and its impact on your sleep, but tryptophan is positively correlated with good sleep quality, and it competes with other things in your blood called large neutral chain amino acids for it to exert its function in the brain. This is why here higher carbohydrate intake can have a positive influence. They help to shift the ratio of these two things, tryptophan and the large neutral chain amino acids, in favor of tryptophan. and it's able to cross the barrier between the blood and the brain so that it can exert its function there. Not all carbohydrates are equally good for this. There was this study on Japanese women that consume instant noodles, and this was related to poor sleep quality. Also, higher intake of sweets was related to poor sleep. A higher intake of vegetables was positively associated with sleep. So not all carbohydrate meals are equal. You cannot expect to eat some cake for dinner and then have a good night's sleep. Now moving into the single foods that can help boost your sleep quality. The first one are melatonin-rich foods. Melatonin is the hormone secreted in your pineal gland, and everybody knows that this is the one that helps you fall asleep. Melatonin is contained not in a large amount of foods, but there have been some very good studies on tart cherries and fresh tart cherry juice that highlight the positive relationship between consuming tart cherries and good sleep quality. Tart cherries are high not only in melatonin, but also in other nutrients that have antioxidative properties, and antioxidants can positively impact your inflammation status, and that could result in better overall health and also better sleep. Tart cherries, however, are not available at all times of the year. Right now, they're about to come into season, late spring, early summer. So next time you go to the grocery store, look around if there are some tart cherries already, and you can try this hack out. What can you do when tart cherries are not in season then? I already mentioned that tryptophan plays a role in sleep. That is because it is involved in the whole metabolism of melatonin. Melatonin is generated from serotonin, which is another hormone, and serotonin is synthesized with the help of tryptophan. So all of these three are involved in your onset of sleep. There have been some very interesting studies on kiwis, and this study found that consuming 2 kiwis before bed managed to prolong the sleep of the participants for up to 1 hour compared to the control group. Kiwi fruit is considered a very great source of serotonin, and it is also rich in antioxidants such as vitamin C and vitamin E, which improve your inflammation status. Tryptophan, as I already mentioned, is essential for serotonin synthesis, and it is contained in larger amounts in parmesan, other cheeses, soybeans, sesame seeds, also a large variety of animal products such as turkey, chicken, pork, also milk. Tryptophan deficiency has been associated with a decrease in the sleep quality, prolonged sleep latency, so longer time until you fall asleep, and a higher amount of nighttime awakenings. Milk is widely popular in Eastern cultures, especially in combination with curcumin, as a drink to give children before falling asleep. This relation could be due to the tryptophan content in milk, but also because of the antioxidative properties of curcumin. I talk a lot about curcumin in my immunity video. If you want, you can check that out. But basically, curcumin has been found great for your inflammation, for the antioxidant capacity, and your overall health. It can have a large number of benefits. The research on milk and its connection to sleep quality, although it is something that a lot of people are familiar with, is not very conclusive because the studies are very different in their methodologies from one another and in the way that milk is administered, duration of the studies, etc. More research needs to be done to conclude if this habit actually helps a lot with sleep quality. Another thing that is under research is the impact of fatty fish on sleep quality and seafood, and this is hypothesized to be because of the contents of vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, although there is no definite evidence that this can positively influence your sleep quality. Vitamin D deficiency has been related to poorer sleep. This is one of the main arguments behind it. Another thing is the zinc content of seafood, especially oysters. There has been one study that investigated zinc-rich oysters and global sleep quality and found a positive correlation between the two. Now moving on to things that definitely negatively impact your sleep quality. These are more drinks than actually foods. And the first one is caffeine containing beverages. You have all heard that you should not be consuming your coffee too late in the day, and the research here is quite definite about that. It has found that the remaining caffeine in your blood is reduced to 1/5 of the initial spike after 16 hours of consuming the coffee. Additionally, some studies found that consuming coffee later than 6 hours before your bedtime negatively influences your sleep. Therefore, the thing that you should keep in mind here is just to drink your coffee in the earlier parts of the day. Second thing is nicotine. It has been related to poorer sleep quality independent of the habit of consumption, since if you're nicotine dependent, you're smoking technically every day. The third thing here is alcohol consumption. I've kind of figured this out with my own experience. Maybe you have a similar thing, but alcohol consumption decreases the time for falling asleep initially, but it increases the amount of time that you would be waking up throughout the night, which results in reduced total sleep time and poorer sleep quality. Research suggests that consuming it 4 hours before bedtime is not going to negatively impact your sleep quality. However, this is not very realistic for people that are having a night out. The last point here are reflux-inducing foods. So spicy foods, very fatty foods can lead to acid reflux, which would then negatively impact your sleep quality. However, if you consume the foods 4 hours or more before bedtime, this effect should not be as permanent. To conclude here, I would say that apart from the very obvious things such as not eating meals that are too large before bedtime and not eating way too late at night, the other things that you can do are not going to be as impactful as making some habit changes. Things like reducing your screen time before bed, sleeping in complete darkness, going to bed earlier, etc. are probably going to make a bigger difference on your sleep quality than eating 2 kiwis before you fall asleep. However, if you're already doing all of these hacks, then you should definitely consider consuming these kinds of foods before bedtime to see if this is going to improve your sleep quality. It is definitely something that you can additionally do to help you have a good night's sleep. I personally am definitely going to try out the cherries one since they are coming in season, and this is technically the only time of the year that you can try this out. Kiwis are also generally great for your health, so eating more of them throughout the day is going to have great effects on your health independent of sleep anyways. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that you learned something new today. Let me know down in the comments below if you want me to do a specific topic next time. If you liked the video, do not forget to like and subscribe, and I will be seeing you next time.